when we have that growth measure information, it's important for the state to do it because we're the only ones that can have the data follow the child. So when a child goes from one school district to another, you should be able to pull up their reading information and know where they're performing and start there as a classroom teacher. You should not have to reassess every kid that comes in your schools. You shouldn't have to wait on records coming from another school district. You should know where students are performing. And that's just as important in math. In 5th grade, we need to know we have math kids ready for algebra. And we should be providing that kind of work for those kids. So we need to be advancing students where they need to be advancing, especially in the area of mathematics. So one more part about mathematics, because that's really my focus when it comes to standards and assessment. We're having 3 summits this summer in the northern, central, and southern parts of the state, and I will probably always, when I run summits, they will always be regional like that, so that people can come. They won't just be come to Indianapolis. So at these conferences, we're going to be talking about standards, assessments, instruction, and most importantly, delivery systems. How do kids earn credits in math in Indiana, and is that the best way for them to earn credits? And can algebraic modules of mathematics be taught within career technology courses? And can kids earn credits in different ways and advance in mathematics in a way that's going to truly advance them? We have been relegated for many, many, many years, and I keep using 5th grade because that's one of the grades I love to teach. But, you know, 5th grade students in 5th grade, they get 5th grade math, no matter what, because we're taking a 5th grade test at the end of the school year. So we don't accelerate kids and get them excited. And math is the one area that I think, because of our system, we bore kids. And I don't say that lightly. Kids are bored with mathematics instruction, because if they don't do what they need to, we remediate. That's all we're doing, teaching, remediating. And we need to get in the mode where we're having growth and intervention. And we should never even talk about remediation. There should never be a need for remediation if we're giving kids what they need along the way. So there's a vision. It's a pretty big vision, starting off with reading. Hope to get that going really in the spring of 2014. So that we can actually, I'm hoping to actually have the first assessment for reading to replace the iRead 3 then, so that we can see what the lag is over the summer when they take this next assessment in the fall, because we need to see that. So there's a bit on Common Core, so that I hope that puts some things in perspective for you. Teacher evaluation and I-STEP. So let's talk about I-STEP. I don't get upset by much of anything. I view everything as a problem or a challenge or an opportunity, and it just needs to get addressed. So when we had the CTV interruptions on the first day with the I-STEP, there wasn't any panic on my end. Number one, I want you to all know that CTV, if you know or you don't know, they have a huge assessment center in Indianapolis. So we have CTV employees at our Department of Education office every day during those testing windows. And so we can see live on the big screen when kids are getting interrupted. And we know how long they're being interrupted. And we can get a handle on that, and then we can make decisions, you know, based upon that. And you, in the field of technology, there's always going to be some interruptions. And we expect about 2% to actually have that, you know, during the whole testing window period. That's just going to happen just because it's technology and it's web-based, okay? So when it got high, we're like, oh my gosh. So the first thing that I did is they said they got some fixes for the evening, and we talked about those in length, and I was over there, you know, with the conversations. And then the next day we monitored, and it was a memory issue that they felt, and so then we went to the next day. And you need to also understand that the Department of Education, the State Board of Ed, last August said that if you have capabilities for technology, you have to give it online. And so Indiana has like the largest population of kids online at a time doing this. It's really kind of not been done before. And so that was the first issue that we didn't get to try out. Now, in hindsight, it should have already been prepared under the last administration, that we probably should have given that those practice tests kind of in sync, so we could have tested the load and the sustainability to know really what effect that was going to have. But that didn't happen. And so the second day when that started to occur again, and the sustain of the load really was the issue, I just said to CTV, how can we assist you? Because I need to complete testing, because there's high stakes tied to this testing. So I don't have the luxury of not completing it in a fashion that's going to make things doable for us at the end. So that's when I made the decision to go to halftime, of half of the kids being on at any given time. And so I appreciate your flexibility, and believe me, having worked with scheduling on testing and having been right there in the trenches as early as last year, I know what you went through, and I know the stress of everybody during that time. From students to the teachers to the tech group, everybody, redoing schedules every single day. I know what you went through, and I appreciate your efforts in getting it completed. So now that it's completed, we have validity issues we need to deal with. So we already know, and the first list the schools are going to get is a list of students that were interrupted. And you're going to compare it with your list and your information at your school level and see if there are any other students we need to add to the list to look for validity. Then we're going to actually do a validity process. We're going to look at the students' answers. And we're going to be looking at information. We have a validity process that's been used for several years. It's been used all the time. But we're hiring a third party to come in and help oversee this. So we're not going to rely just upon CTV to be the vendor person to actually do the validity portion of it. And then we're going to be sending information back to you again. But along this process, most kids had test sessions that were completed without interruptions. And then there are test sessions that, a lot of kids did not complete without interruptions. So in the end, it affects their scaled score. So in the past, you've gotten information back that says undetermined, I think is the word they used, and you don't get a score, you don't get anything. Nothing goes out to the parents, they count it against you in participation, okay, with the accountability system. That's not going to happen this year. So we're going to report out information no matter what. You're entitled to it, you worked hard for it, you deserve to look at it. So we're going to report out all scores, and there may be notes on particular areas that say, note, this information here may not be valid due to test interruptions. So that everybody knows, here's what is valid, here's what isn't in a particular student's information. But we're going to report it all out. But the scaled scores that we deem should not be in the pot, so to speak, for validity purposes, then we're going to use the validity base to begin the calculations for accountability. So we're going to try and make everything fair. And so let me speak a minute about teacher evaluation. And I know many of you may not be directly involved in the evaluation of teachers, but you are involved in the process that is figuring out the calculations, perhaps through technology for your teacher evaluation system. So raise your hands if your school district uses RISE. Okay. In a very, very short time, I'm going to be reissuing the RISE model with a different calculation for the student outcomes portion and the significance, and lowering the significance. I'm going to lower it, and my suggestion is going to be to lower it to the point where it does not impact teacher ratings, which in effect, have an impact on compensation. Now there are several reasons for doing that, but the first one is legal. I don't think you want to be having lawsuits from teachers who are going to claim that they didn't get extra pay this year because they had students in their classroom that had invalid scores. So we have to look at this from the standpoint that to have minimal impact on the high stakesness of the test. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if we didn't have high stakes tied to the test. If it was about student learning, which is what it should be about, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation. We would have gone about getting kids tested and looking at the information and going about our business in the classrooms. So just be assured that we're going to be looking at all the aspects to make sure that it's fair, to make sure that we're not going to put sanctions on anybody as a result of the interruptions that we had with the testing this year.